spies out in the community.
It's 5:30 p.m. and the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for August 25th, 2022 is now in session. Would you please stand with me for the invocation? Joe, please.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of gathering together to do business for the city. We thank you for your blessings. We thank you for watching over us. We pray your guidance in the decisions that we make tonight. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this commission on any subject besides what's on the agenda? Not tonight's agenda, but any other reason for being here? Anyone at all? All right. Then the commissioners, item number 4.1 is to discuss approval of minutes from July 28, 2022. So do we have any questions or discussion about last month's meeting? Anyone? No questions? Then do I hear a motion, please?
Move we accept the minutes.
I have a motion to accept the minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, this has carried. Action number 5.1 to discuss our upcoming meeting calendar. So if you will turn, are you going to present this, Mr. Rogers, or would you like me to do this? Okay.
I'd like to, pardon me. Good evening. Thanks for everybody being here this evening. I like to look ahead and plan ahead. So as a part of that, I asked Omar to put in a packet tonight in September. So your next meeting will be September 22nd. Everybody has that in their packet on agenda page 9. And then October meeting is October 27th. And then when we get into November, show of hands of who wants to meet on Thanksgiving Day. Okay. So we have penciled in the 17th of November as a placeholder. If you're unable to meet then, we probably need to know because we're going to need to have a quorum. And then on the last page there, page 12 of your packet, is December, and that, again, we would typically meet a week early because you get into holidays by the 22nd. It gets harder to meet, take care of business. I would offer a caveat, Mr. Chairman, that depending on the amount of business that we need to take care of in November and December, sometimes we've combined those meetings in early December and had one meeting, and that's still an option as well. So just, if you don't mind, be as flexible as you can be during the holiday season. We'll coordinate that with the chairman when he wants to have a meeting date as we have more business coming up in November and December. But I kind of want you to think about alternative dates already. And then we may wind up doing a combo meeting in early December, like the 8th or something like that is another possibility, okay? So any questions for me or comments related to that? That's really all I wanted, was just to put it in front of you tonight so everybody could see it.
Okay. So if your schedule permits you to know already that you're going to be out of town at a certain time, well, please inform someone about that so we can make plans. I will be out of town, supposed to be out of town next month's meeting. So, but anybody else that has, just keep it in mind. We need to get our calendar specified.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 6.1. And let me make a few comments before we begin this. So this public hearing is going to, we're going to have something presented to you or a little bit here in a moment. But this public hearing is going to be for discussion and to receive public comments tonight. This public hearing will stay open until next month's meeting to give time for I guess some final details or whatever on this thing. So we're not going to take action on it tonight. Okay. Right? We will hear and discuss and receive public comment, and then we will move on. So item number 6.1, PD 22-03, conduct a public hearing to discuss a planned development, single-family, executive estates, multifamily, research and technology park, and highway corridor, PDSF-EE-MF 1,000-RT-HC. Base zoning on 1,098.59 acres of land, the city of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. The property is located southeast of Interstate 20, south of County Road 305, west of FM 2578, and north of FM 987. The property is currently in the city of Terrell's ETJ. The property will be developed into a mixed-use residential and business park and highway commercial with a variety of uses, PD 22-03. Mr. Sims, or whoever is going to help us with this evening, would you please come forward?
So I'm so in the habit of saying mayor and council, but I get to say chairman and board. I appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate y'all spending the time to review this. This is a complicated project, and so it's probably a good thing that we're walking slowly through this. You saw a presentation fairly recently from the applicant, so that's Centurion America, and they gave you a presentation in PowerPoint form a while back and kind of talked you through some of the main ideas about this project. But I'm going to take it from scratch and kind of walk you through it, and I find it easiest just to talk from this, this map that's here in front of you. So I feel bad because do you have it in there? I do. Oh, you do? Okay, great. All right, excellent. So let's get lay of the land first. So this is 1,098 acres. You can roughly approximate where it is by imagining driving south on FM 148. As you pass the rodeo arena, you kind of go around a little bit of curve, and then there's a whole bunch of ranch land that just runs and runs and runs, okay? That's where we're talking about, okay? You can see the same piece of property on Interstate 20. If you get on Interstate 20 at Buc-ee's, like at 148, and you drive back into Dallas, it's not the land on the north side, it's the land on the south side, and that's a sign you've been able to see for years. There was a for sale sign from a broker out there for years and years. So that's generally where it is. The curve on this map right here, if you kind of look, if you're in the audience and you see the FM 148, I-20 is, I think some of y'all are probably here from to learn about this. So if I'm looking up here at that one, so Interstate 20 is at the top of the map right there, and then the white line that goes through the middle of the top part right there, that's FM 148, okay? And if I want to ID where the rodeo arena is, see where it says Davis Lane right there? That's that little private road that goes out to those houses. And then if I go back toward Sage Hill Parkway, the old County Road 305, that's where the rodeo arena is. So that's kind of generally speaking geographically where this thing's located. And that ownership was at one time part of the overall Big Los Lomas ownership. So y'all know that north of I-20, there's about 4,000 acres that are all under one Los Lomas ownership. So back in, say, the 2002, 3, 4, 5 period, the city was working with this landowner when this landowner was connected to the Anthony Properties development north of Interstate 20. When that was going on in the 05-06 time period, the city signed a development agreement that was very heavy on residential and mixed use out in this area. And that's the controlling legal authority on this piece of land right now. And so right now, the developer could move forward under that 2005 development agreement and build a higher density than what's shown on this map right here. And I don't want to try to go through all of that nuance, but the idea is the developer and the city of Terrell are faced with a very simple question here. We can either obey a 2005 development agreement that says certain standards about the development out there, certain rules about the development out there, certain open space requirements about the development out there, and we can say, you know what, you guys develop outside the city limits without city control, but move forward under the terms of that old development agreement. Or, as we've been doing, we've been discussing, well, what could we do to up the standards and up the quality of the development? Because now we're looking at 2022 and we're saying to ourselves, maybe the things that we thought were good zoning standards for an outside of the city limit jurisdictional development in 2005, maybe things need to change. So As you've seen with a couple of other developments here recently, we're taking old development agreements that were designed in the early 2000s, and we're saying, you know what, let's step those quality levels up. And instead of having them be extraterritorial jurisdiction, where it's the sheriff who comes to take care of a problem, it's the emergency service district that comes to take care of a problem, it's all in the county, but it's developed under city land use platting requirements. You used to have only platting authority on this land, and so that's the development agreement that's out there. So we can either go with an ETJ style development and have less control, or we could do a in-city development and try to up the development standards. So this isn't about perfect world. This is about trying to accomplish something where we improve the standards and improve what we have the opportunity to do. It's also about getting a voluntary annexation. And you guys hear a lot about different annexation rules under state of Texas annexation rules. And I'm going to limit my comment to say, no matter what you think, good, bad, or indifferent about the state of annexation rules in the state of Texas, we as a city, for this particular piece of land, with the rules that are out there right now on this particular piece of land, cannot just involuntarily annex it. We don't have the power to go in on this piece of land and say, well, we're just going to take it into the city limits and we're going to apply whatever zoning standards we feel like on it. We have to negotiate a voluntary annexation because of the rules that the state of Texas have given us, and because of the rules from some of the old vesting in the special district that was applied to this land by the state legislature in the early 2000s. So you got a complicated world here of a state-created municipal utility district, a development agreement from the early 2000s, and an attempt now by both the development partner that we're working with and the city of Terrell to say, wouldn't this just be better off if it were in the city limits and our police department could go out and control things, and our fire department went out and we had the certainty of development standards, and by the way, maybe we developed some amenities that weren't really contemplated at the time. So if you look at the drawing here, there's a fairly large utility easement that goes kind of diagonally across this piece of property, and what we've done is we've identified that that'd be a great place to follow along with a road called Las Lomas Parkway. Right now, the development agreement says you don't have to provide any continuity across this piece of property from south to north. And as you guys have heard several different times, you kind of know this because it's on our thoroughfare plan, what we'd like to do is to have a bypass to FM 148 and 205. What's the problem with bringing thousands of new houses to town if you don't build a new road, right? That means everybody has to stay on the existing 148 and stay on the existing 205. That Las Lomas Boulevard is designed in our overall thoroughfare plan to be a 6-lane road that goes basically kind of sort of from the corner of Griffith and 205 and goes off to the west just a little bit. It crosses US 80 right close to where Nucor is. There's already funding in the county bond program for us to build that bridge over US 80 and the railroad tracks. And then y'all know where Las Lomas Boulevard crosses Spur 557. That's an exit right now. And then it goes all the way down, crosses Interstate 20. TxDOT did an I-20 frontage road study that identified where Las Lomas could cross. And then we're relying on the voluntary annexation of this to give us the rights to build Las Lomas Parkway all across this piece of property and down to FM 2578. So if I'm south of town on FM 2578, if I'm south of town on 148, I can get onto Las Lomas Boulevard and I can skip the 148-20 intersection. I can skip the 148 Spur 557 intersection. I can go over the railroad tracks instead of waiting at the railroad tracks, and I can get all the way to the north side of town. That Las Lomas Boulevard is one of the most important things about this project, in that when we're transferring from a ETJ development based on a 2005 thoroughfare plan that did not contemplate Las Lomas Boulevard, and I now get to do a voluntary annexation where we have the developer build Las Lomas Boulevard, that we consider to be a net benefit in this overall project. One of the other negotiating points in this has been, what do we do with FM 148 anyway, right? So we're able, through this development agreement process, to require improvements on FM 148. We don't want to be one of these cities that says, great, we're glad you come to roadway improvement from the end of their property up to I-20, you want to fill that roadway improvement all the way up to I-20. And so that's part of this overall development process. Now remember, we want to make sure whenever we write these development agreements that we actually don't smile and say, here's a pretty map and trust us, it'll get built. We want to dial that down to a point of 100% certainty that we really know what's going to happen. So as you flip through this, what you'll see is that there's a series of exhibits that show exactly what the cross-section requirements are for Los Lomas Boulevard, for FM 148, turning 148 into a 4-lane road instead of a 2-lane road, making Los Lomas Boulevard the correct road that it ought to be a major arterial in this city. There's cross-section requirements for what's shown as Collector B there, cross-section requirements for what's shown as Collector A there. The other series of exhibits that you see in this thing is the area that's referred to here as Nature Preserve Area. So the nickname for this right now, you can read the little wording on the bottom, is Arboretum Estates. Because as we discussed what we could do that would be a good partnership for the city and for this developer, we felt like we wanted to make sure that there was a meaningful dedication of non-floodplain land. Lots of times when you see these developments, you get dedication of land that's in the floodplain. Well, that's nice, that's open space, you can do trails along it, but we need non-open space or non-floodplain land. So there's the 39-acre nature preserve, there's additional land along the floodplain, there's a 16-acre school site for a new elementary school, there's a sport park 7-acre site, and then we have emergency medical service locations. So that's where we can put a fire station, all right there on Los Lomas Boulevard. So we want to make sure that we detail and we show you those in the various exhibits. So one of the reasons we don't want to ask for a vote tonight is that we're actually still polishing up all of those exhibits. We feel like when we come forward to you in about a month from now, we'll have more of the polish done on those so you can really see what those are all going to look like. So then let's talk about the exact land uses. Like I said, there is an existing zoning allowances on this piece of land. We, as city staff, think that this is a better combo pack of lots, types, and mix of uses on the land. So Interstate 20 will have a frontage road in the future. There's a Phase 1A light industrial of 177 acres. That follows the Research Technology Park zoning that you guys recently approved. So you saw John Godwin back in February said, hey, we've been working through how do we make good employment locations. We created the zoning category called Research Technology Park. That's what this Phase 1A light industrial zone is all about. We've got another couple that are sort of flex between retail and light industrial. Again, Research Technology Park. You got another Phase 1A for retail over here. And then you've got 2 apartment phases. Right now, they could build more than 630 apartment units on this piece of land through some of the old zoning allowances. We didn't favor that. We didn't think that was a good idea. They've agreed to limit that to 630 multifamily units. That's basically 2 apartment complexes. And on 1,098 acres, we didn't feel like that was overwhelming the neighborhood. We felt like that could be done in a high-quality way and with a appreciation to making this an overall well-structured neighborhood. Some of the other things on here is you've got different lot types and lot sizes. There's 2 different lot sizes that are in the 40 to 50 foot wide range. Those are around 1,000 each. There's a group of lots that are in the 60 to 70 foot range. Those are around 200 total lots. And then they've agreed to do 137 of the estate lots. And in this definition, that's a half-acre estate lot. Y'all know that we have a zoning category called executive estate. They're basically building our executive estate type of a requirement on a half-acre lot. And so we viewed that as a good thing. They're putting a lot of that around the Arboretum as a way to try to make a natural transition area there. And again, we think that would be a positive overall thing for this development area. Like I said, it's complicated. It's like some of the other ones we've seen recently where what you're doing is you're saying to yourself, okay, the vote of the Planning and Zoning Board for a piece of land that's not in the city limits and is only in the ETJ only gets turned on. It's like a light switch, right? It only gets turned on when there's a voluntary annexation, which might happen a few weeks after you vote, and it might happen a few months or a year after you vote, because we've got to work through the other steps in the development agreement process. There's water line issues that need to get done here. This is in the Rose Hill CCN right now, so the developer will have to take charge of going through the process of decertifying out of Rose Hill CCN and then getting into the City of Terrell CCN. That's their difficulty, that's their thing they have to do. We won't actually allow them to turn dirt on different parts of this thing until they're out of that old CCN. So we're gonna make sure that that work gets done correctly as well. So lots of different moving parts. Development agreement has to get done, annexation has to get done, water issues have to get settled up. But a step in all that overall process is that we need to know that it can get zoning approval. So what will happen is we'll ask you to take action in the form, that goofy way of phrasing a motion that we've shown you before, where we basically say something along the lines of, we approve pending negotiation of a development agreement, voluntary annexation, and so on down the line. We feel like that's the right thing to do here because I think this could be a very harmful development if it were outside of the city limits. If we have to call the sheriff to go handle a problem in this area, they're not going to come quickly. I was just looking at our own 911 response times. We're getting to calls that are serious calls in households in 4.5 minutes. In the city of Dallas, you go look at that statistic and you find how long it takes somebody in the city of Dallas to get there. You go look at that statistic for the sheriff's office, that's a bad number, okay? So we think this is a much better way of doing it, so it's our police and our fire. If you allow the emergency service district that covers this with the Terrell Volunteer Fire Department trying to cover calls out in this area, you are not going to have a successful development. You're going to have people needing EMS service, you're going to have people needing fire department service, and you're going to be waiting for those folks to come from a very long way, and you're going to be asking volunteers to do it. We need to professionalize that service, and we need to make sure that we've got an on-site fire station in this zone. So we've got all that planning developed in here so that we can have a high-quality development instead of something that doesn't really work on the south end of town. So again, we never promise perfect. We never promise that everybody will be happy. We'll never promise that we can keep Terrell rural forever. The fact of the matter is, under state law, this land can get developed. And they can do it with the city of Terrell or they can do it without the city of Terrell. So that's sort of where we stand here. Staff is going to give it 100% support because we feel like they're doing their legwork to try to meet our needs and do the things that we feel like are beneficial to the city. But I'll pause there. I'd be happy to hand it back to you, Chairman. I don't know if you want to take questions now or open public hearing now, but I'd be happy to do it either way.
Well, let's just take a few questions right quick.
Okay?
For Mr. Sims. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Sims? The only question I have is about the 40-foot lots. Is that a typical lot size?
Well, it's really changing. I'll say that we haven't allowed very many zoning of that size a lot. The Woodlands is a 45-foot wide lot. The trend that we're seeing that is probably not a house that I'm personally going to buy anytime soon, but if you go up to Anna, Melissa, other parts of Collin County, what you see is a lot of lot development that's a 40-foot lot with a fairly good, robust house on a very small lot because you got a lot of millennials who don't want to have a yard. That's just their point of view. And so it's a different house type, it's a different customer, and they're selling those houses between $300,000 and $400,000, and that's what they think we're going to be able to do in this location as well. So I wouldn't take the small lot as being a sign of poor quality. The small lot in this particular case is just a new version of what the market is asking for. We asked them to diversify that. They had rights to do more of that, but we've asked them to diversify that, and so that's why they've introduced some 60 and 70-foot lots, and that's why they've taken a chunk of this development and agreed to do it with the only 137 half-acre estate lots. So there's just a balancing act there, and it's definitely a different product.
Yes. Did you say that they could 100% do everything that's shown here without ever annexing to the city?
Well, that's true. I would also.
How much would it, how much are they, like, if that's the case, how much are they allowed?
I
to
would
pay?
say if you look at this map right here, and you say, okay, here's a couple of sections here where it shows sort of the larger lot sizes with that lighter color on them there. All of that, 137 estate lots, those would go away, and they would build either a 50-foot lot or something like that on those. They would be able to do that now. See that big green area in the middle that says nature reserve area? That wouldn't be there at all, okay? And so they have rights to move forward on some of those other things. They can mix and match a little bit of the other work along Interstate 20. So again, I hesitate to claim that I've got the 2005 development agreement memorized. My look at it was, this is a better land use plan than what's in that.
All right, any other discussion? All right, thank you, Mr. Sims.
Yes, sir.
I'm about to open a public hearing. Before I do, it's typical with us, for time constraints purposes. I'm going to ask for people to speak, if you choose to speak, here in a moment. But if you could tell us whether you're for or against, and limit your time to 3 or 4 minutes, no more than that, because of the number of people, so that everybody has a chance to be a part of this meeting. We would appreciate that very much. So now I'm going to open the public hearing. So is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak in public in favor of this approval of this PD plan development? Anyone want to speak in favor? All right. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this plan development? Please come forward, ma'am. And state your name, please, when you come up to the microphone.
Sharon Nye. I live on Norton Drive. And I actually sent a letter to you all, but somebody told me it was in the packet, but it's not. So if I could just read it
It's in our packet, yes.
to you, well, maybe it's in yours. What'd I do with it? Okay. I'm totally opposed to this. Because if you go through with this proposal, you will totally destroy our way of life out here in the country. The peace and quiet we cherish, the tranquility of the country that we moved away from the city to enjoy. We put down roots here for a reason, to get away from city traffic noise and congestion. And what you are planning here is to basically plop down a little town right in our midst, practically on our properties. The pleasant, relaxing darkness of nights and starry skies will be totally ruined with bright lights from this little town. My whole backyard and probably the whole area will be illuminated all night. No relief. We will never again be able to enjoy a summer evening outside in our own yards because of lights from this horror. Perhaps you picked this particular area because it mostly butts a mobile home community, and I feel like we don't count for anything, maybe. Hopefully that's not your thinking. Ours is a nice mobile home community of ranchettes that we have put money into a lot in some cases, work to take care of and keep nice with the intention of getting to live here in peace and enjoy for as long as we want to. I am 84 years old, and I plan to stay here as long as I'm alive, but you can make my last years a real nightmare with this awful project. Also, there is a pipeline running in the property behind the Norton Drive properties. I didn't think anything could be constructed on top of that. The location map you provided, well, that doesn't matter. It's difficult to make out, but it looks like your property is actually, or your project is encroaching on my property, which is not acceptable. So I would like to ask that you kindly take the Arboretum Estates elsewhere where it won't ruin people's enjoyment of their homes. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mrs. Nye. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this? Please come forward. Oh, no?
I'm Kathy Bates. I live on 148 on the west end of this development, and I'm not speaking in opposition. I just came to get information, and I'm here to listen, so here I'm talking. But I wonder, has Las Lomas presented an alternative use plan or something? If they don't annex, and are they the ones that you're talking about annexing? Offering voluntary annexation? Have they committed to that?
I'm going to defer to the chairman. Normally, what we do during a public hearing is to just take the comments. If you leave your sheet, anybody can do this, leave your sheet, put your email address on it, then we respond after the meeting.
Okay.
Right, so we don't get a Q&A going now.
Okay.
So just give us your comments. And if you want follow-up, leave us your email, and we'll get you what you need and answer your questions.
Okay. Like I said, I'm here to find out information, less than ask about it.
Oh, thank you for coming. The purpose of this is to get information and to receive your comment. We appreciate you for taking part in this. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this request for this plan development? Anyone? All right, if no one else, then I will close. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm sorry. We're not closing this public hearing. We're going to continue this until our next meeting. So this public hearing is open. So if you have other comments, you can send it in to the city if you choose to, if you think of something, or you can request information as well. All right? We're going to leave this open. Sir?
Just for the sake of the audience here, so everybody's clear, there's a little sign-up sheet out there, and any way you want to get us your contact information, just get us an email, get us something, and if you've got, hey, this is my specific question, then we'll get that answered and get that out to you. That's the benefit of keeping it open. That's the point the chairman's making, okay? All right, thank you. Sorry, sir.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to, if there's no discussion or question among ourselves, is there any questions for discussion? Then we will move on from this particular agenda item. Item number 6.2 has been withdrawn by the presenter, or by the person that wanted us to consider this. So we go to action items number 7.1. Discuss and consider a final plat for Oak Point Estates, lots 1 through 15, Block A, and lots 1 through 17, Block B, being 41.473 acres out of the John C. Hale Survey, abstract number 202, the City of Terrell, ETJ, Kaufman County, Texas, located at the southeast corner of County Road 304 and County Road 303. Mr. Rogers.
Omar, would you put the map up, please? I'm gonna have Omar put the map up. And, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a final plat for Oak Point Estates. I wanna take note that, Bart Carroll, I believe, is with us. Bart has been shepherding this project. Bart and I started on this project over 15 years ago, and it got caught up in the downturn of the economy back in the late 2008, somewhere in that range, and got shelved for a while. Picked it back up, and I'm glad to say we finally got it over the finish line. It's about 41 and a half acres, about 32 residential lots. It's at the corner of County Road 304 and 303. I hope you can see that in Elmira if you'll run your cursor up and down County Road 304 right there. Interstate 20 is on the left side of this page. FM 2578's on kind of the top north of this page. It's kind of turned, looking east straight up the page. This is I'm sorry, 2578's there on the bottom where she just put her cursor. Interstate 20's at the top. And so County Road 304 is right there on the west side, and County Road 303 is on the north side of this property as well there. So anyway, they have put all their public improvements in. Everything's been accepted. The county's been out there. They've accepted the improvements, and this was approved. Construction of the plat was approved by Planning and Zoning Commission in July of 2020. And so we're bringing you final plat tonight, and I'll answer any questions from that, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission.
Okay, so are there any questions for Mr. Rogers concerning this, this final plat for Oak Point Estates? Any questions? I'm trying to find it here. No questions. Okay, if there are no questions, then I'm going to, I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve item 7.1 as presented.
I have a motion for approval for this request. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. This is carried. Item number 7.2, to discuss and consider a final plat for Bayer Edition, Lot 1R1, 2 and 3, being 2.425 acres out of the J.C. Hale Survey. Abstract number 202, the City of Terrell, Coffin County, Texas, also known as 1280 AM 148. Mr. Rogers, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is an addition that's been platted for many years in the city of Terrell. It's zoned commercial. It's on FM 148. My best frame of reference for you here is Chick-fil-A on the bottom and Specs on the top. So that's on the west side of FM 148, south of Spur 557. It wasn't a part of the Crossroads development. It's had a Shell gas station on it for 25 or 30 years, and the service station's been removed. And you can see this layout here. There's actually kind of two main lots. Go back to the map. I think there's two main lots, and in the back there was a septic, a septic easement. And so what they've done is they've submitted a plat to plat it into 3 lots. So we approved a construction plat on this in March of 2022. They've done their public improvements. They're ready to start building some buildings. They're splitting it into 3 lots, as you can see. You can kind of see from this map here. We have a coffee shop close to Chick-fil-A. There's a mixed kind of a retail building in the middle, and then there's an oil change place close to Specs, and that's kind of the 3 partitions that they've broken into. I have Jake Fears with me now. Jake's been the engineer on this project from the beginning, and then he brought some young men with him that would love to be playing baseball right now instead of in here at a P&Z meeting. But anyway, between Jake and I, we're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Rogers about this project? It's a 10-minute oil change. It's a coffee shop. And what was the other one? It's
a retail strip shop, kind of a small strip shop. It's probably gonna have more than one thing in it. Do you have any? I don't know the yeah, it's just a building. There's nothing specific we've been told, but it's gonna be a retail use, and it may be 2 different items in the building. Could be split into 3 small things. We don't know.
How many entrances will it have? Will it have one in the front, one in the,
It's got 2 entrances off FM 148. It's kind of hard to see in this drawing here. There's one right there that O'Mara's showing you, which is an existing driveway that went to the Shell station. They're removing the second driveway that went to the Shell station. They're adding a new one right there that she's showing you right there on her cursor. And then if you follow the roadway to the back over there, it'll go back to your aerial map, please. There'll be a driveway that will connect to the back right there, where she's got her cursor on the map right there. It'll connect to American Way on the back by Specs there in that general area there. So there'll be it won't be a direct connection. We don't want cut-through traffic. We're making it hard for traffic to do that because they'll cut through there if you have a straight shot. So we made them wind through there, but it does provide connectivity. 3 different driveways.
Is the parking in the back?
Say again?
Is the parking for this in the back of behind this building?
The coffee shop does not, it's only a quick service restaurant and has no indoor seating. The oil change place is, employee only, so there's very few places needed for it. But the retail has parking ringed around it, around the building.
Okay, any other questions?
If I remember correctly, coming over here, there is grass for the other spaces. The Specs and the Chick-fil-A have grass on the front of 148.
Yeah, there'll be some landscaping in a green space alone. It won't be quite as big as those, but there'll be some there where they can plant some trees, put in some greenery, each one of them. And then there'll be some in the back as well, some green space in the back on the American Way side.
Is that coffee shop drive-through, right? You said no
It's a
park.
drive-through coffee shop, yes, sir. It's called Dutch Brothers. It's not a secret. It's called Dutch Brothers. I've never been to one. Somebody here may have been, I don't know, but it's coffee and other things.
Anyone else have questions for Mr. Rogers? Okay,